1 minute. I'm waiting for the clock.
I think we had a big gong back here.
We need a big gong. You can be in charge of paying the gong.
I see, they didn't show that on some bits.
I used to watch that show.
But then the nice will be something else too.
It might increase our ratings. I mean, they're pretty good already.
We'll get better ratings in the county.
They already.
It's out on the street for
I need gong.
whatever it is you do.
Do what? The Springfield Board of Mayor and Aldermen's regular rescheduled session is called to order. Please stand and say the pledge with us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for being here tonight. This is our snow makeup meeting. I'm sorry that we could not have our January 16th meeting, but we had to make sure that all of our employees could get home that night, so we decided that we'd cancel that meeting, and thank you for being here tonight and understanding that. 1.2, the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen held on December the 19th, 2017.
So move for approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. 1.3, our public hearing. Ordinance 17-18, an ordinance amending the City of Springfield's Condition of Service Manual by amending the section entitled Water by adding a new policy entitled Request for New Water Taps. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Please come to the mic and state your name, and you have 2 minutes. Seeing no one that wants to speak, this is closed. 1.4, it's a presentation for our financial statements and our supplementary information for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2017. And I'll call on Jeff Proctor and Ankur Singer. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you. And
you're the one that's done all the work. We're going to let Jeff sit in the back, right?
well, you can see Jeff has succeeded this year in making me present today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all your hard work. We've all appreciate what you've done for us over the years.
Thank you, and the Board of Aldermen and Ms. Gina and Ms. Lisa and her team for giving us the opportunity again and for all the support during the audit process. We'll try to make this as quick as possible. So I would like you to turn to page 4 of the audit report. This is our independent auditor's report. Basically, this summarizes what did we opine on and what did we audit and what were management's responsibilities, what were our responsibilities, and what our opinion is. If you flip to page 5, it says, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, the business type activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the city as of June 30th, 2017, and the respective changes in financial position. In simple words, what this means is we had a clean audit. You have to put it in simple words. There weren't any issues that came across. This is an unmodified opinion, and there could be other types of opinions like modified or adverse opinion or disclaimers. We had none of that. So you should feel good. We felt good in giving such an opinion. So any questions on this? No? All right, then I would like you to turn all the way to page 87. This is an internal control and just some time. It's all the way towards the back, page 87. This is an internal control and compliance report. It's also called Yellow Book. It's not printed on yellow paper, but it's called Yellow Book report, mainly because the GASB, the government auditing standard book, it's yellow color. So what this says is that we considered city's internal control in planning and performing our audit, and we also tested its compliance with certain laws, regulations, and contracts, and grant agreements, and debt agreements. And again, you will be glad to know we didn't come across any issues that we felt that needed to be addressed in this report. So another thumbs up over here. Now, I would like you to flip back to page 16, please. One six, 16. This is statement of net position in for-profit world, its balance sheet. And this is a big picture summarizing the whole city, the governmental funds and the proprietary funds like electric, gas, water, and sewer. And this includes all the current assets, cash, receivables. Also, it includes the capital assets and the long-term debt related to those assets. And you can see the net position at the bottom. For governmental funds, it was $38 million. For our proprietary funds, business type activities, it was about 89, and in total of $128 million. Now, I would like you to go to page 18. This is also called the balance sheet, and this is only for governmental funds. The main difference between this and the one we just looked at page 16 is that on this page 18, there are no capital assets and there's no long-term debt. That's the key difference in these two statements. And if you go towards the bottom of the page, in row 1, column 1, you'll see unassigned fund balance of $6.2 million. As you already know, the minimum unassigned fund balance policy for the city is $2 million. So you're doing pretty good. Yeah, you got $6.2 million of unassigned funds that could be used for city purposes to meet any obligations that are there. I just want to mention one thing on page 19. If you look at page 19, the way we get to page 16, the one statement of net position, is we take page 18 and we make all the adjustments that are there on page 19, and that's how we come to page 16, statement of net positions. I thought you might be interested in knowing that, how we drive at that. I know Miss Lisa knows, but all right. Page 20 gives you more detailed information about the activities of governmental funds, you know, the revenue streams and the expenses of the government. And if you go to page 22, that gives you more detail about our proprietary funds. It's listed by major proprietary fund, and sanitation and stormwater are combined in the second last column, non-major funds. With that, that's all I had. If you have any questions, I will be glad to answer those questions. And Jeff, of course.
Any questions, gentlemen?
Nope.
I'm happy it turned out as good as it did.
Yep, we are
Thank
too.
you.
We are too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
2.1, discuss and possible take action on a resolution 17-13 on a third and final reading, a resolution annexing 110 acres, 0.8 acres of property from an individual subdivision on Highway 161 near the North Industrial Park. Justin Head, owner. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I need to disclose that while I'm not related to Justin, I am related to his wife, and his wife and I are both shareholders in a closely held corporation. And I
Thank you.
will not be discussing this or voting.
Thank you for pointing that out before we start discussing. Any questions on the third and final reading? No questions? Call the roll, please.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
Trotter.
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Head,
Abstain?
Gregg.
Aye.
Passed 6-0, one abstain.
Thank you, Ms. Crockett. 2.2, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 17-16 on a third and final reading, ordinance rezoning 1.35 acres on Tennessee Highway 76 East in the 9th Civil District from AG2 Agriculture to R40 Residential. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Okay, this is also a third and final reading. Any questions? Okay, call the roll, Ms. Crockett.
Head,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Trotter.
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Passed 7-0.
2.3, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 17-17 on a third and final reading. A ordinance amending the fiscal year 2018 annual budget for the city of Springfield by amending certain general funds and utility fund budgets. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Third and final reading, do you have any questions? Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Trotter.
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Head,
Yes.
Snyder,
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Harris.
Yes.
Passed 7-0.
Thank you. 2.4, discuss and take possible action on ordinance 17-18 on a second reading, an ordinance amending the City of Springfield Conditions of Service Manual by amending the section entitled Water by adding a new policy entitled Request for New Water Taps to read as set forth in Exhibit A. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Ms. Holt, our city manager.
I'd just like to add that the ordinance was amended last month by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, and I wanted to point out that under number 4, the last sentence, that was added about all collected data are to be entered into the Springfield Water Wastewater Department City Works database and the online public access information link on the city website. And then number 8, we added signage indicating such request shall be placed on a 4x4 sign on a public right-of-way 30 days prior to issuance of requested taps. So both of those changes were made.
Questions, gentlemen? We talked this one to death last time, I believe.
We did.
Call the roll, please.
Sneed.
Aye.
Harris.
Yes.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Head,
Yes.
Snyder.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Passed 7-0.
Thank you. 2.5, discuss and possible take action on Resolution 18-01, a resolution authorizing the City of Springfield Park and Recreation Department to apply for a 2018 Local Parks and Recreation Fund grant in the amount of $500,000. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Holt, do you want Mr. Martin to
Will I?
talk about this, or you?
Well, I can do it unless Terry just wants to get out. But we are going to apply, I think we discussed this earlier, we're going to apply for a $500,000 grant to help offset what we have in our capital improvement plan for next year's budget, the $1.3 million, and we have that for Phase 3, Project 2 at the Martin Luther King Jr. Park. And what is in the budget this year is the $1 million that we're borrowing in an FY18 bond, and that's for the splash pad and the sidewalks, but the $1.3 million that we talked about for next year's budget is for the playground, adjacent parking lot, sidewalks, and practice fields. So this grant, and we have a very good chance of getting it, would have to be matched $500,000, but if we're planning on a $1.3 million, it would just knock that down to the $800,000. So the grant application deadline is April, and we find out probably around October. And so there's nothing we just have to do this resolution so that you can authorize us to apply for it.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, sir, Mr. Hubbard.
My comment is I'm really anxious to get that park up to what we projected it to be, so. I'll go along with that, but I'll also go along with, with finding another way of paying it too, okay?
Okay. Any questions before we call the roll, gentlemen? Call the roll, please.
Harris.
Yes.
Snyder.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Gregg. Head.
Yes.
Pass 7-0.
Thank you. 3.1, discuss and possible take action on the adjustment of the retail electric rates for the Springfield Electric Department due to the wholesale fuel cost adjustments by TVA. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Second.
Mr. Pinson?
It's going up 0.38% from last month.
Okay. We won't shoot the messenger.
I'm mad at you, Nick.
Be gentle now. Mr. Gardner's not here tonight. Mr. Pinson's filling in.
That's my buddy.
50 quarters, I lost, I didn't show up.
For the audience, this is pass through. We have to approve it. TVA has set the rates, and we have to pass through and pass it every month.
May I also say this?
Yes.
Your crews were working real hard, so I thank you for that.
Yes, sir, they do a good job.
I thank you for managing them. Good crews.
Any other discussion before we call the roll? Call the roll, please.
Snyder.
Aye.
Harris.
Yes.
Gregg. Sneed.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
Thank you. 3.2, discuss and possible take action on the adjustment of the monthly gas rates for the Springfield Gas Department. Mr. Riddle.
The purchase gas adjustment's up 7.13% this month, this time of year. However, if it makes you feel any better, we're still cheaper than we were back in August. So
You brought us some good news.
it's up and down. That's-
We'll remember that. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Harris.
Yes.
Trotter.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Gregg.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
Thank you. 3.3, discuss and possible take action on an appointment to the beer board. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Holt? Oh, this is in our packet.
Actually, this is, yes, Ms. Lisa Crockett put a memo in there recommending that Wayne Dickerson, who is Alderman Trotter's appointee, fill out the remaining term of Leroy Ellis.
Okay.
I so moved. Acceptance.
We've done that.
Okay, good.
Any discussion before we call the roll? Call the roll, please.
Head.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Trotter.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Gregg. Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
Thank you. 3.4, discuss and possible take action on a request by the county commission to sign a release and waiver agreement regarding the reverter clause referenced in 1948 deed from the city to the county. Do I hear a motion?
Move the table.
Okay.
On a second? I'll second.
Move to table this till after, let's see, after 3.5, we have the county's request before our own issues need to be discussed. It should have been inverted there. We're discussing county stuff before we talk about what we need to be talking about.
Is everybody okay with changing that? Do we need to vote on that? Mr. Martinoli?
Sure. I mean, it's on the agenda, it's published, you're modifying the agenda.
Okay. All right, we have a first and a second. Your motion was to table it. If
Until
we
after.
table it,
Until
we're not
after.
going to discuss it tonight.
Yes, we can. I'm tabling, I'm tabling the motion until after we discussed 3.5, which is an issue.
Mr. Hubbard, are you good with that?
Well, it's a conversation I don't want to have to deal with, but yes, I'm good with it.
Okay, so the first and the second are in agreement.
I mean, I don't know who put the agenda together, but I think we should put our issue before the counties.
Okay? So we vote on that now.
Yes.
Okay?
So
Call the roll.
we're voting to just swap them.
Trotter,
All right.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Head,
Yes.
Snyder,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
Gregg, Harris.
Yes.
Passed 7-0.
Okay, 3.5, discuss and possible take action to exercise the city's reverter clause on the claim of the Woodland Street School property.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Aye.
Mr. Sneed's done the first, do we hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Okay, now this is up for discussion. Ms. Holt, do you have anything on this? We told Ms. Barty, our city attorney, and Mr. Mark Nolan is filling in tonight,
But
not to do anything.
we have authorized them not to do anything, right? So I don't know that they can give a legal opinion.
Well,
Mr. Sneed?
as the maker of the motion, I'd like to put forth why I'd like to discuss this. It was brought to our attention through a search of the deeds on the Branford School property to see if there was any such reverter clause there, which I did find there was, which was not disclosed prior to a lot of discussion about spending a lot of money out there, but it was in our favor. And so that favor is also here. Now, the county's contention is, and position is, they think that there does not need to be, that the reverter is not valid. Well, if they did not think the reverter clause was valid, then why, when they sold or gave property away to to iCare, which was the first piece of property that I can find records that they gave away, if they didn't think it was relevant, why did they include it in the deed that they transferred? And then the deed was transferred from iCare to Greater White's Faith. So it followed there again. So there's already precedence that the deed was relevant and it was not taken care of when it was brought to their attention before. And Dollar Store looked at the property and don't know the exact details, but they did not pursue that piece of property when they had interest before. That hasn't been explored as to what maybe some of the reasons were. Now, the property has been, as before, it was on our agenda and it was not disclosed. A document was not disclosed and put in the agenda as it should have been, explaining to the board that the facility has been abated of hazardous materials at a cost of, I think, $27,000. A whole lot less than what we've paid for some abatement issues in the past. And so it's a piece of property that has some potential. It's a lot of land there. It has about 60 parking spots in the parking lot, and the gym has a steel structured roof. If any of y'all went there, and it's as straight as the roof on this building. There's a few groups of people here in the county, city, who have expressed interest to the county, who said that the county is looking at maybe giving it to them. So if the county doesn't want it enough to sell and has entertained the idea of giving it to other groups, then why would they fight it to give it to us?
And
And one other point, I've searched at the archives on some of the minutes of the meetings in 1946, 47, and the discussions in those minutes, if no one else has took the interest to go see, the part about fulfilling obligations and that seems to be a sticking point for the county. But it had to do with loans that were outstanding for remodeling and some additions. And there were some school systems in the county that had to do with moving. There's some issues about moving the school. That had to do with some schools like in Coopertown and Ridgetop and some other areas where they were so dilapidated that there really wasn't a lot there to give away, and it was the discussions were along the line of if you have to move that school. It doesn't say it specifically, but some of the language in the minutes referenced that. But the loans that were outstanding was not for the whole school. It was for remodeling or some equipment, things like that. That's what the loans were. What the loans that were paid off by the county was not for the whole facilities. It was just for some additions and things like that.
And I would assume if you're doing a loan against a building, it's going to be on the whole building. Okay,
Well,
so.
no, but I mean, that's the idea of what I read from the archives.
Let me understand that you are asking us, are you making a motion of some kind that you would
Well,
like us to entertain?
They're asking us to waiver the reverter clause, and if they thought it was valid, why would they ask us to waiver it? And why was it included in 2 prior deed transfers? Why wasn't it resolved then? They thought enough of it that it was still ours to include the reverter when they gave it to somebody else. They
Okay.
weren't interested in it then.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Question?
Before we get off into that, I have to kind of address some things that you were saying. And you're talking about the property out there with Bransford High School. I don't know why you brought it in.
Different subject.
No, you brought the subject up. And I just want to clarify a point, understand me, of why it was even given to the different organizations, because there was a need for recreational, there was a need for youth development in that particular area. That's how it all started back 20 years ago when the county, and then it went through a lot of processes there. So that is totally different from what we're dealing with out here on Woodland Street. As far as Woodland Street, this is my opinion. We don't really need it. We don't really need it. There's nothing feasible at this point, from my opinion, for us fighting over it, because we have other buildings that we need to take care of, and we got other projects that we need to take care of. So
Okay.
I would like to see that go to rest.
Okay. Mr. Gregg?
I'm kind of on Mr. Sneed's page as far as I think the county feels like the city has some right to it, or they wouldn't be asking us to sign a release in order for them to have it.
And I don't know if this is the county that's come up with this question or a title company wanting, in the transfer of property, may have came up with this idea. It may not just be the county. I'm looking at our attorney, Mark Nolan.
Clear deed to it?
I mean,
Yes.
I don't know, but certainly in a title search, that would show up and the issue would have to be resolved.
Yeah,
But
it may not have been the
I
county's idea. Might have been the title company, because they may be in the process of trying to sell it to Dollar General. I'm not aware.
I'm not either.
I thought we
I
deferred
don't
this
think they
last
were.
month,
We did?
We did defer it.
and that we were going to have a county representative here.
The county
We were.
decided that they would not come. They felt like this was their property.
Question, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Asked Alderman Sneed, and that's just for your opinion, when it reads in here that, clause that says, any further, if any of the real estate herein conveyed shall cease to be used for school purpose, the same shall immediately thereon revert to and become the property of the city, except where the county relocated a school and acquires other real estate for such relocation. So in your opinion, are you saying you don't think the county did that when it ceased to be Woodland Street School?
Looking at some of the limited verbiage that's in the archives during the county commission meetings, to what I can gather, there were some schools that were so bad that I think it was referencing those, because it would be like a new facility that they'd have to build somewhere. So it just wasn't enough to redo the modeling. The loans that we, to get away, I think that answers your question. But to add to that answer, what the county did as far as obligations was the loans that were on some of the schools, they'd been in existence for decades. Those loans weren't for the entire properties. That was for like remodelings, roofs, and things like that. I don't think that the city would not put the reverter clause in these properties unless they had a reason to, in case it did cease to be a school. I think I'm reading it just for what it says, if it ceased to be a school, or if it moves. I'm reading it that clearly, and the things that are moving from the archives makes me think it had to do with some really old dilapidated schools that they knew they was going to tear down.
Well, obviously, I've not read the archive records. Does anyone know the number of schools that was in the city limits when this was done?
Well, this was done countywide. The state legislature passed something that allowed this to happen, and there was a study done, and then the city worked out the deals. It wasn't just Springfield, it's all the counties, and it's all the cities in the county worked with the county at the same time.
Well, I guess my thought process behind it would be that if Woodland Street ceased to be a school, and then the other schools such as Cheatham Park opened, or West Side, or whatever opened up after that, and they met their obligation here they closed Woodland Street School, but yet they acquired other property.
Right.
And opened up other schools, and that would release them from having to revert back to the city.
Cheatham Park was in the 50s, different area. So Woodland Street continued. They didn't move Woodland Street anywhere. It continued until a few years ago. It never was moved.
When they closed it, they had another school to take its place, property they acquired to take its place. So would that not cover them in a reverter?
I don't read it like that. The moving part had to do with schools that were dilapidated.
Clay, this language is specific to this property, Woodland Street.
Yeah.
Is that right?
No,
it's not talking about other schools.
Yes, it was all schools.
I think it is talking about all the schools, and it also references the $141,000 bonded indebtedness, which was probably what was outstanding at the time.
Says it was assumed by the county.
In my personal opinion, I don't believe, and we have sat here and how many years ago sat here as a group with the school board. Some of us.
Well, the last person that was alive that could have told us was Emerson Meggs. He was mentioned in these archives in '47, and after it was merged, there was a new levy, a new tax that was put on all of us. So it wasn't just a burden on the county. There was a new tax that was installed. I can't remember how much, $1, $1.50, $2 or something, but everyone pitched into it. It wasn't just a new burden on the county.
Checked into what the value of this piece of property is now?
The county register of deeds, because it has, at Chris Trauber's office, there is no value because it's just never been done. There was no reason to pay an appraiser to look at it, so that the Chris Trauber's office has no dollar value to it.
So obviously, though, if we try to exercise the reverter clause on this, then I don't know what we could sell it for, but are we not going to eat that up in law expenses of fighting this out in court? That's where it's going.
I'm not going to, we'll see what happens, but when I make the motion, I'd like to pay them back for the 27, for the abatement. I think we owe them that.
In my personal opinion, I believe that when we sat here and we asked the school board to do all the things that we asked, and for the ones of us who were on the board, they have been good to us, and they have looked at the issues that we talked about sitting here. I personally am not willing to get into a fight with the school board and the county commission over this, because I believe we have a good relationship, and I don't believe we need this property.
Well,
other than the value of the building, does the alderman have a use for this building?
I've suggested some things, but we're getting ready to go into budget time, and earlier on, when I first brought it to our to the board's attention, the plan was to get into budget discussions and look at what potential we might have, but it's not my choice to bring it here today or last month or the month before. It was the county's trying to push it before we could get the budget and talk about it in a more thorough setting, and, or not setting, but a more thorough, not, where we're not so time constrained and the audience may be bored listening to it, but
What do you want?
Mr. Hubbard.
What do you want? What do you see that we can do with that property? Just come on out and say it. I mean, you want to fight over it. For what reason? What do you want to put out there? Why don't you just go ahead and say it?
that's for a discussion of another day.
No, it's not a discussion of another day. This is relevant to what we're talking about right now. What do you really want to see out there, Mrs. Sneed?
That would be up to the board
Please.
as a whole.
We'll have to talk about that.
Okay, gentlemen.
I mean, it's an asset that has a reverter clause, and I'm not going to just,
Any more discussion?
here you go.
Any more discussion on this?
Yes.
Okay.
You talked about you didn't feel like you needed to start a fight over it. Apparently, you think the county does. So they're not willing, I mean.
I don't think they're trying to start a fight. They may be trying to sell this property, and a title company will not issue title insurance till this is cleared up.
Okay. Why would we not want to sell it?
I don't believe we own it, but that's my personal opinion. Do you have a motion?
Make a motion to exercise the reverter clause as specified in the deed on the Woodland Street School and compensate the county the amount equivalent to what they paid for the asbestos abatement, not to exceed $28,000.
Okay. We have a motion to exercise the reverter clause along with paying back the county. Do I hear a second? If there's no second, it dies. Moving on, we're going to go back to 3.4. Discuss and possible take action on a request by the county commission to sign a release and a waiver agreement regarding the reverter clause in reference to the 1948 deed from the city to the county. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? No second? It dies. Moving on, 3.6, discuss and possible take action to approve the recommended negotiation price for the property located at 2510 Queen Anne Court in the amount of $152,000.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Holt?
Okay, and I may let Mr. Ellis address this, but this is of course, everyone's familiar with the drainage issues on Queen Anne Court, and this house at 2510, I think, or 2510, does have some flooding in the backyard, and Mr. Ellis, we had an appraisal done on the house, and all that is in the agenda packet, and came to a negotiated price of $152,000 for the house. Now, we can we would pay for this with the 2012 bonds that we recently paid back when we had the interfund loan a couple of months ago. So we would have the money to pay for it out of these bonds, which are just recently been repaid.
Okay.
Can I?
Yes, sir.
We paid an average, and it would range from about 155 to 160 in those prior homes. So looking at this, I feel it's only fair to pay him the 152 that he asked for.
Okay. Other discussion, gentlemen? Call the roll, please.
Snyder.
Aye.
Harris.
Yes.
Gregg. Sneed. Trotter. Head.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Is this an aye for 152? Yes.
Pass 7-0.
Thank you, Ms. Crockett. 3.7, discuss and possible take action to to approve a letter to TDOT acknowledging the city's obligation to develop, implement, and maintain the Americans with Disability Act compliance and transit plan. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Ellis going to talk about this?
I can,
Okay.
unless he just wants to. This is a TDOT requirement. All cities of, I guess, a certain population have to have a transition plan. And there have been several requirements over the last couple of years, and we are in compliance. We had our grievance procedure, which was required last year. And cities are spending, I hate to say it, but quite a bit of money to talk to firms to come in and do inventories of all of the buildings and the sidewalks and different areas. And our future funding of any federal or state money depends on this. If we don't do it, we don't get future funding. Is that correct?
Only, it's all TDOT and federal funds.
And I think you made us aware of this in our strategic planning meeting.
We have certain deadlines, the December's, and then this one, when it obligates us for quite a bit of money, put it through September 19th.
Okay.
Several $1 million.
Any questions, gentlemen?
Yes.
Got to comply.
Yes, sir.
So this is to do upgrades to existing sidewalks to make it AD compliant. Is that the,
No, this is for.
I know what the letter's for, but what we're going to be required to do is do a lot of work on sidewalks and such, all of our doors and buildings.
Sidewalks, buildings, anything.
Right.
It's a transition plan that we have to do first. That's what they're talking about, is due September the 19th. And that goes to TDOT for their approval to release this. After that, in this transition plan, you have to already analyze every location in Springfield, every building that we have, and say what you're going to have to do to correct it to meet the ADA regulations that's on the record. Then you spell out how much money and when you're going to do it. Now, I don't mean you have to do it the first year. You may do it over 5 years or 10 years. Now, the only caveat to this that's different, they have told us anything that we do on the road, for example, if we go to Central Avenue and do any kind of major work, we have to upgrade all the sidewalks, all the handicaps to ADA standards. And that's already in law. So that's back. But this transition plan is required by TDOT before we can continue to receive any more federal dollars after September of 2019.
What do you think the cost, we're not going to have any cost sharing help from the federal, it's a federally mandated issue, but we're not going to get any money to do it. They're going to tell you to do it and use your money.
That's correct. Standard policy.
That's standard.
It's pretty normal. We're used to this.
Where else is there a precedence where that was argued and?
No, perhaps not.
Perhaps not. Where else, is there a precedence? Is there a precedence in law that on other issues the federal government was trying to mandate municipalities or states to do that was like you've got, I'm sure there has, I just can't, it doesn't come to mind right now.
The federal government mandated all the states lower their blood alcohol level to .08. If you didn't do that, you didn't get federal dollars. And mandatory seatbelt laws or other things. So it'd be a similar to the federal government's.
I see.
Stormwater?
Well, those costs were somewhat minimal. Stormwater, right, had Matt put a tax for stormwater.
A lot of the money we spend is because of federal and state mandates.
Well, see, that's where if we modify our property tax cards, that could be a line item where people would see and understand and know who, and you know, that would give them an idea if we have to add a tax to that.
Any questions, gentlemen? Before we call the roll.
We can't beat Uncle Sam, so we're not going to go left on that.
Call the roll, please.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Harris.
Yes.
Trotter. Snyder. Head.
Yes.
Gregg. Pass 7-0.
Thank you. 3.8, discuss and possible take action to approve change order number 3 with Bush Construction for the final quality adjustments for the Tom Austin Highway gas main relocation on the old Highway 431 to Walling Road in the amount of $796,467.42. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions on the change order? Yes, ma'am.
Can I just add that what it does is it brings the total down, the project's finished, it's been finished for a while, and it brings the total down to a savings of over $100,000.
Oh, that's good.
So, that's a good one, right, Mr. Riddle?
We had to leave this open because TDOT on phase 1 decided they wanted to change the contours and the cuts there at Tracy Langston, and Bush had done that first phase, and they agreed to leave that open with some slight retainage. We held out, and finally TDOT come back and released us of that. So we paid, if y'all remember, back in the summer, we paid Bush the retainage, which was like $3,900, and got that off the books. However, we didn't do a final quantities adjustment at that time, so now that's what this is for.
Thank you, Mr. Riddle. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Head.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Trotter.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
Thank you. 3.9, discuss and possible take action to approve the Griggs Malone contract revision to engineering services for the Mount Denson Pump Station upgrade flow meters and the water treatment plant filters operating upgrade installations in the amount of $314,500. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions on this upgrade? Call the roll, please.
Trotter.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Snyder.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Harris.
Yes.
Pass 7-0.
Thank you. 3.10, discuss and possible take action on the Crofton Association contract proposal for additional $30,000 for the Logan Todd appraisals. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Holt?
Okay, this is, of course, part of the Logan Todd, and there have been different, we still have some probably 15 or less easements, mostly condemnation, so we still have some work to do. But we borrowed about $1.8 million back in a bond in 2014 and another one in 2016. And so we were not sure back then exactly what our costs were going to be. So we do have a savings here, and we've only spent roughly about $900,000 right now. So this $30,000 is for some revisions in some routing, for easement acquisitions, the appraisals, their negotiations, legal descriptions, and condemnation. So that $30,000 is, we have plenty of funding left in what we've borrowed for that.
There's light at the end of the tunnel. It's almost
Yes,
over. Any questions for Ms. Holt? Call the roll, please.
Sneed.
Aye.
Harris.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Snyder.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
And just an update on the Logan Todd water, that will shortly be bid. We were in strategic planning,
Right.
so we did not go to the Logan Todd meeting, but here very shortly, we're waiting on a signature from Washington DC.
Right.
So that that project will start the bidding process. So we are getting much closer to having a second source of water. 3.11, discuss and possible take action on the proposal from Green Village Recycling, extending the recycling program to the Springfield residents. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Now, in your packet, the proposal is there between the county and the city, and I will tell you, as it's stated in there, that the county did pass this since we had to reschedule our meeting. If you're not aware that the county has already passed this. The gentlemen from Green Villages are here. Mr. Ellis can answer questions. I know this is going to be a discussion, so. Who has the first question? Gentlemen?
Lead us into it, Alan. How was the trial? I mean, first.
Well, we did the 6-month trial, which we randomly picked out 300 homes in a certain area of Springfield, which we thought was a cross-section of Springfield.
Mr. Ellis, I don't think your
mic's not on.
Well, it's not close enough.
Okay, yeah.
So we did 300 homes and tried to come up with them. We furnished the carts, we picked up everything with Green Village. We came up with numbers that we resolved on this issue so that we could look at it. Now, this can be considered the first step into this. But one thing we have to look into, we have looked at recycling a lot of times. I think all of y'all, or all the older folks have been on the board. The problem, I'm in that group too. Okay, the problem has been.
Wait a minute, I gotta collect myself first, so I can hear what you have to say.
Well, the problem has been cost. As you well know, our sanitation department is a utility. So we have to live within the cost of our revenue that we receive, just like gas, just like water, or any other department. So we ran this first. Like I say, we picked 300 homes. We didn't ask them if they wanted a card or not. They went out and gave these cards out and did it for 6 months. I think from Green Village gave us a number of about 50% participating. So with that number, we ended up with about a 10% diversion, which meant 10% of it was recycled. If you took 50% actually did it, that would double that number to 20% of diversion from the people who actually participated in the program. Now, that doesn't amount to a lot of money. It's very, very little money that was saved here. However, recycling is never going to save money, dollars. We look at the environment, we look at other issues, and we look to try to get it closer to where it would be acceptable somehow. So what this program, I think, that they have resolved and we worked out, or that Green Village is proposing is, and you correct me if I'm wrong, they will go out and anybody who wants to have recycling inside the city of Springfield can contact them. They will bring them a cart and set them up on a collection cycle. The cart they will have to pay for, I believe, on the front end, but the cost would be $8 a month for those individuals who chose to do so. At the same time, the city and the county will put in $3 each, so a total of $14 for anybody who is wanting to recycle. And the way I understand it, this would be open to anybody in the city of Springfield, up to 2,000 people. And I believe the county passed it for 1 year.
Yes, they did.
And I guess that's what our proposal is tonight, is to pass it for 1 year with the city, which would be $3 for people who participate, up to $2,000 people. Now, there's about 2,000 homes. Let me rephrase that. There's about 6,300 pickups a week here in the city of Springfield. So that's about a third of what we pick up. Now, the only problem we have is finances on this. If we got the full 2,000, would mean about, I believe, $75,000, $72,000, something like that, dollars, which would probably mean an increase in our regular rates because we're very, very tight in the budget. And again, we can't get any other funds unless we raise rates, just like the water, just like the gas, or any other people. We can't get sales tax, we can't get land taxes. So I guess what we want to do tonight is extend, the way it's written here, extend this program and ask these 2,000 people, at least anybody in the city who wants to participate, to try to participate in this. and hopefully we would see a better number down the road. One thing you remember, the first 300 that we had, we didn't ask them if they wanted to participate.
Right.
And according to Green Village, 50% did. In this case, everyone who wants it will participate, I think, because they'll be paying $8 a month. So it will be a better diversion rate. And
They'll be in buy-in.
right. Now, by budget time, or at least by, I don't know how fast this could get started up, but by budget time, we will know if we'll have to raise the rates to offset the amount of money that we need or be close. That would be the only problem, is the funding of this thing. And I believe the chamber is working on some kind of grant proposal that would assist in this too as well. It might cut back on some of the costs on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's going to be lots of questions, and Green Village is here tonight, and they can also answer any questions. In my personal opinion, I believe it's really easy to look back and say that we probably didn't choose the right path the first time, because we just said, here you go, 300 people. This time we're asking for people to buy in, and they're going to have to pay $8 for this service. So it's just like if you go down to the local bank and you ask for a loan, you've got to participate. So the customer's going to be paying $8, and they've bought into the program and they're going to do it. I think that looking back, we probably should have started this way. It's really easy to look back. And Mr. Trotter.
Excellent. You have an idea how much that will raise the regular rates?
If it's $70, we can get by with $1 a month.
$1 added on to each customer.
The 6,300 cards that we have out there right now.
Just add $1 per month per family, like one household.
Gina and I both question on whether we will get that many that quick.
Yeah. That'll be in time. Ms.
Can I
Holt?
just add one thing? For one thing, we're talking about getting started in the fourth quarter of this fiscal year. So by April, we would probably have a full quarter. I think, I'm looking at the Green Village guys. So we would actually only have 3 quarters in next fiscal year. So if we had 2,000 people, which we don't think we will get in before the end of the fiscal year, but at the most we would have this fiscal year is $18,000. If we have 1,000, of course, it would be 9,000 for the rest of, in this fiscal year, which we don't have budgeted, and we have a $2,000 fund balance that we're projecting at year end, but we do have over $600,000 in reserves, but you don't want to use that unless you have to. So, but if we get 1,000, which is good, it's good news and bad news. The cost is more, but if you get 1,000 or 2,000 people, that means there's real interest in recycling. And so that's the good thing. And I think that that's where you're going to see your diversion rate go up. But I just wanted to remind you all that we have 3 quarters in the next fiscal year, since it is a year's agreement that the county agreed to, that we would do the same.
Mr. Trotter, you had your hand up.
No, he's asking.
Oh, okay.
Aren't we
Mr. Harris.
also getting $9,000 back?
We would get the $9,000 back that we paid, the county and the city paid $9,000 for the carts in the initial pilot program, and we would be getting that back.
So the maximum we could pay out on this fiscal year would be $9,000, because we're getting 9 back
We would get.
out of 18.
Well, and if we got, the 9,000 would come back as they get it back as the people sign up.
Okay.
So, right.
But then you talked about it being in reserves. But you can't take it out of reserves. It has to go in as a sanitation increase.
Well, the sanitation reserve.
Sanitation reserve has 600,000.
Mr. Trotter? Mr. Hubbard? Just going to go around the room.
Splendid idea.
Okay. Mr. Gregg?
There's no doubt that recycling is good. The way I understand this pilot program, it was not a success. So it makes me wonder, is there another alternative to doing something besides this particular program?
Mr. Ellis or Ms. Holt, would you like to address
I
that?
couldn't answer on doing a partial like we're doing. Now, there are other companies out there, and maybe this company as well, that will do the entire cities. Goodlettsville, White House, and some of those. Now, what you got, we have a sanitation utility that operates. And we do, the only way you could do the whole thing is to sell our equipment, which we've got several $1 million worth of equipment. But then you lose your rate setting ability, as well as the biggest problem you have, we probably $300,000 worth of stuff that we do in sanitation would have to kick back in the general fund, such as all your brush pickup, your twice-a-year junk pickup, our convenience center that we operate at the Public Works office, several items such as that kick over. Now, the main problem, not a problem, it's a good problem, we all pay taxes, which are paid into the county, and it operates their transfer station. So therefore, when we take our solid waste out there, we don't pay a fee for household waste. Now, when we take junk out there, we do pay for commercial carts, but your household waste is not a paid fee, so recycling doesn't come back to us like it would to a company who was paying every time they tipped it out. So that's some of the problems there.
Other questions, Mr. Gregg?
No.
Mr. Sneed?
Yes. Before I have, the first question is, when did Green Village first come here and get approval to offer their services? How long ago was that?
I believe they were doing this a long time before we ever did a pilot program.
Well, the
You mean with the city of Springfield?
they came here and asked, the chamber brought them and was advocating, and they came and asked for permission to offer this service in the city. That was about 3-4 years ago, 5 years?
I don't
Couldn't answer that.
I don't recall us voting on that.
They didn't come to
The
the
request
city
for
at all.
proposal is last February.
We turned the proposal to do it at our cost down, and at one point, they came and asked if they could do it in the city limits, and we voted on it, and we approved that. Yes, we did. I voted on it.
At their cost.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they asked for
right.
permission
I
to
think
drive
so.
our streets and offer this program.
I don't remember that.
And
Yeah.
I voted on it, we did. I don't have a problem with a private enterprise conducting business, and when they came here, it was proposed it would be no cost to the city. And it's been that way until earlier this year when we agreed to go in partnerships with the county to do a pilot program. Now, before I get to my next question, I'd like to give the board some history to refresh your memory. I asked the question, how much diversion rate are we looking for to ascertain a value that we would deem a success? No one had an answer. We were just going to do it. We're going to do a pilot project, and pilot projects are supposed to have results. That's what we're supposed to look at and talk about. But there was no goal ever set as how much we're supposed to collect and divert. So how do you know if it's a success or failure if you don't set a goal at the beginning? The question was never asked. So 300 people received a card, and I asked the Green Village to send me the way ticket receipts as proof of what was being diverted. I got 2 of them. I should have got a minimum of 12. The figures that are in here was purely their figures. I don't have any way of proving or disproving or knowing how they got those figures. That's just what they put in there. But the county voted on this and approved it, as you mentioned earlier. I think the vote was 18-3. And it was also mentioned that the savings to the county was about $450. So our county commissioners were okay with spending $13,500 to save $450. $50. I don't know about how you handle your budget, but I don't spend $13,500 to save $450. Now, as you said, Mr. Ellis, you're never going to come out ahead on recycling. So, to Mr. Gregg's question, how can we do this in a more economical way? Now, all of us are here would like to recycle. I like to keep my stuff and sell it. I keep my cans. I don't give them away. I sell them. And I've got piles of scrap metal that I sell. And the only thing you can't sell around here is paper, and not that much paper to be disposed of anymore. The newspaper took away right across the street from the police department. That's where I carried all my paper. And they don't even have that disposal can there anymore. So the only place to dispose of anything is at the landfill. And for the people who said that we don't have a collection program, we do. It's been here for years. You just had to call them and ask for it. You could have got it. It's going to cost you money on this program. It could have cost you money in the last 4 years. Some of the letters I've received advocating to do this were people who only got the cart once it was free to them to use. But they're advocating it's a good deal, but they didn't think it was a good deal if they had to pay for it.
Okay.
Now, I'll let Mr. Bruce Head talk, and then I've got some ideas about how to answer Mr. Gregg's question on better cost savings.
I'm going to call on Mr. Head, but I'm also going to ask the gentleman from Green Village to come on up to the mics, because I'm going to go back around the room, and I'm sure
Point of order, Mayor.
that they have some questions.
Was this a public meeting? Public hearing? Because
No.
you've got one side advocating for it to come to the podium and pitch it, but we don't have the other side who may want to argue against it.
They may have some questions
I'm
for
just
Green
point-
Village.
Just point of order, just trying to get it clear.
If there's no one that up
I do
here.
have questions for Green Village.
Sure.
Mayoral prerogative.
Come on, gentlemen, to the mic, please.
Mayoral prerogative put in place. Thank you.
A couple of questions that I'd like to get an answer to. You're offering a reduced rate from $20 to $14 for the residents. Is that correct?
That's correct.
How long is that rate going to be in effect?
That rate would stay in effect as long as we had an agreement with the city for the 1 year, and then certainly we would have to then come back and take a look at the success rate of the program and determine what it would be after that. But that's what it's established as.
And how dependent is that rate upon achieving the 2,000 households?
We've already agreed that that rate is good whether it's one household or it's 2,000. Obviously, the goal is to try to get as many people and as many households as possible to recycle.
Are you doing a similar program in any other cities?
We're actually speaking with a few cities about this same type of a program, but we are not at this present time.
Okay. I want to go back around the room, and Mr. Harris.
So how long has your company been operating in the city of Springfield?
We started coming up in Springfield about 4.5 years ago, and part of it was at the request of the chamber to bring some recycling availability to the area.
So prior to the pilot program that we did last year, how many customers did you have in the city limits?
We only had about 75 customers in the city limits and about another 30 between here and Ridgetop, but several hundred and actually well over 1,000 in the Sumner County area as well.
Mr. Harris, you're finished. Mr. Trotter.
Are you located in any other states other than Tennessee?
No, we're actually a hometown company based out of Sumner County, but we're based in Hendersonville, and we're about 25 minutes from door to door.
So your startup company, how long have you been doing this?
Since 2010 is when we started.
Mr. Hubbard.
So the reference would come from Sumner County.
I'm sorry?
The major reference of your company will come from Sumner County.
Well, we operate in 7 counties, so we're in Sumner County as our home base, but we service Davidson County, we service Rutherford County, Williamson County, Wilson County,
and
Would
parts
you
of.
say the bulk of your customers are in Sumner?
That is correct, of our residential customers, because we work with many, many businesses, franchise corporations, banks.
Thank you.
And I'll just make a statement as we go around the room. My personal opinion is, I believe that this will eventually be mandated. Mr. Sneed is right, it's going to cost us money. But I think if we don't start recycling now, we're going to be behind the 8 ball, because the federal government's going to come in here and say, why have you not been doing this? And, you know, how they like to pop fines on us. I think that it's important that we get started in some form or fashion on recycling. It's the right thing to do for the environment. Mr. Gregg?
Do you also pick up in the county, or is it only in cities?
Well, the economics of traveling 10, 15, and 20 minutes between houses and the fuel costs related to that make it very, very difficult for us to be able to keep rates low. And obviously, each household needs to be able to budget for this type of a service. So the answer is we try as much as we can to offer the service anywhere. Unfortunately, it has to be dictated and based on how close the homes are, and that's why we tend to operate closer in city limits. But we certainly do operate in some of the county areas as well.
Okay. Mr. Sneed?
Yes, Mayor, I take issue with your statement that you said the federal government's going to pop in here and issue fines if we, and ask questions why we didn't do this. I'm sure we would get notice and
personal
we
opinion.
can start. I don't think we're going to be fined for not doing something that we didn't know we were supposed to do. I can't remember your name. Jason. Jason. Mr. Jason, I'm glad that you're in this business. It's a well-deserved industry. I'm sorry that you were unable to get more than 75 customers in the city through the 4.5 years you've been here. I'm sure that you've had some flyer campaigns and things like that. Not really to speak of. We didn't really market it at all, but it was really more of a website and availability through. We started, we're kind of bootstrapping the business, but now we've grown and obviously are moving into other cities. The two-way tickets that you did provide, it was that facility right there by the near the airport. Was that where you were weighing your trucks? No, Mr. Sneed, actually, it's not two-way tickets. Let's back up for a second. We provided a weekly count of the weight diversion from the processing facility on a Google Docs document, which was updated and verified by Ms. Weimer every single week, and that was available to you every week for the entire program. So it wasn't just two, it was every single weight ticket that we possibly could provide. And in the few instances that we couldn't provide a weight ticket, we took a photo of the scale weight going in and out of the facility. Well, I wasn't going to go there. I was just saying your facility's over by the airport. Is that where you're located? Because I saw that on the weight ticket. Okay. Do you have, I know that you want the city to approve this program, this offer. Is there anything you can give us, or an idea to answer Mr. Gregg's question? Is there another way that we could do the recycling at a reduced cost and provide? Because I know when we started the pilot program, I wanted to first set up some recycling collection facilities and pay someone 2 days a week to open the gates to allow people to come in and monitor it so it doesn't get trashed up. I think paying a person 2 days a week, 50 weeks a year, paying them 100 days in a calendar year would provide that person a job, and it wouldn't require the gas being burned or the propane from your truck driving up and down the streets to collect the sparsely those carts that are sparsely placed at the edge of the street. Because I was watching the program. It's in my district, it's in Mr. Head's district. So I was watching what was brought to the street, and yes, it was low participation. just like I'm in the camp with Mr. Gray, there's got to be a cheaper way to provide, to make it more accessible. We've always had the program, you've always been here, but I just have a problem with subsidizing private industry.
Mrs. Sneed, look out in the audience, please. Thank you.
Okay.
Questions?
I'm in the camp with Mr. Gregg. We got to figure out something else.
Okay. Mr. Head?
One more question. Is it safe to say that recyclables, generally speaking, are less weighty than things that can't be recycled?
Mr. Hand, I'm glad you asked that question. I'm going to turn it over to Chris Parker. He's actually studied this.
And that's a great question, sir. I appreciate it. And thank you all very much for having us in this evening. We very much appreciate the opportunity to share with you what our path forward is. And, you know, frankly, it's a path forward whether we want to accept that or not. It's not just a Springfield or Robertson County or a Tennessee issue. Waste and recycling is a nationwide and worldwide issue. What we know about landfills are that they are accumulating at rates faster every day, particularly in the Middle Tennessee area. And that's happening because of the influx of population growth coming into Middle Tennessee. So what we have with this particular situation is the city of Springfield and Robertson County having to long haul their trash 90 miles into the state of Kentucky, which seems like it's a viable solution right now. The challenge with that is that states like New York, New Jersey, other states in the Northeast are long hauling their trash via rail car to the state of Kentucky and the state of West Virginia. So what that proposes to us is we have to put a solution in place. 70%, if you extract food, 70% of everything that is thrown into the landfill is recyclable. Now what we know is that 1 cubic yard of municipal waste weighs 4 times that of 1 cubic yard of recyclables, to answer your question, sir. And so it's not the landfills that are going to be closing down because of a weight issue, which we've only been using the metric of weight thus far. The real metric to use is cubic volume. Cubic volume is what's going to shut the landfills down. Cubic volume is why we have to go from Bi-County now into the state of Kentucky. So cubic volume is really the metric that we need to look at. The reason that the waste industry has pigeonholed us into using the format of charging as it relates to weight is because they make the most money at that. The landfill's not going to shut down because it's too heavy. The landfill's going to shut down because there's too much volume. So when we talk about waste and diversion and recycling, you know, the real metric to look at is volume. Because as you asked, sir, you know, again, 1 cubic yard of municipal waste weighs 4 times that of 1 cubic yard of recyclables. You know, it's not the end-all solution for the city. We have to start and build somewhere, and that really is the challenge that not just Springfield and Robertson County, but frankly the state of Tennessee. I mean, TDEC has already made the commitment to not issue any more landfill permits. We met with TDEC several weeks ago in our offices, and they specifically said they're not interested nor going to issue any more permits for landfills in the state of Tennessee. That means we have to rely on our visiting neighbors, Kentucky, Alabama. But if we have states that are long hauling their waste into the state of Kentucky and West Virginia, you know, how long is that solution going to be a viable solution? You know, how long is it going to be before our rates here in Springfield, or rather Robertson County, significantly increase? You know, then we're not looking at a flat line. We're looking at an increased and sharply increased line just for, you know, for being able to continue with the program that we have now. So,
Mr. Head, you have any further questions?
I don't.
Mr. Harris?
If I understood you correctly, that you said you'd been here for 4.5 years and virtually you did no marketing whatsoever for the 75 customers that you had. So through this pilot program that was 6 months long, is that correct? And I realize, I don't know who chose the area of what your 300 carts went into, and I don't know if you had much involvement in that. but you have had involvement over the last 4.5 years in the way you've marketed things. So in this program, you're offering a $6 value to the customer, you're asking the city and the county to do the same. But what are your intentions to do to increase this, that we're not going to come back in a year's time and we want to do another program to try to increase get people to recycle?
Sure, and that's, it's really a matter of joint communication between Public Works, the City of Springfield, the Chamber, Robertson County, us, to be able to take a collective, proactive approach towards communication and how the program works. Because what we've learned since 2010 is that communication is key when measuring and being able to get participation to measure the rate of diversion, if you will. Without that communication, the program is going to fall on its face, quite frankly. So it's a conglomeration between Public Works, Chamber of Commerce, the city, the county, and Green Village.
Mr. Trump.
One more. I would just take some issue, and I'm not trying to tell you how to run your company, but for 4.5 years that you've been here, and you haven't tried any marketing to get people to do it, and then asking for money from us to try to get them to do it, I don't quite understand the whole.
Well, let me address that. First of all, this market is something that we wanted to come into to offer the service.
Okay.
We're being asked by Franklin, Murfreesboro, and other markets to come there. Quite honestly, the density and population is much greater there. We could spend our time there and, with all due respect, make a lot more money in those areas. We're trying our part. We're offering a public-private partnership, a cooperative effort for Springfield to lead in Middle Tennessee with sustainable practices. On the state symbol, it says agriculture and commerce. If you don't protect your agriculture, you will have no commerce. And that's where we're at right now.
Mr. Trotter.
Now, this question is for Alan, if you can answer. Have you talked with any of those 75 customers personally? I'm just curious. Now, would your proximity from Sumner County to Robertson have anything to do with the reason you're not going to Rutherford and Wilson counties?
They are.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
You said that you've been offered Rutherford and Murfreesboro and Wilson County want you to come there, but you'd rather do it here. Is it because your proximity from Sumner County to Robertson, you're a lot closer?
Well, in all honesty, we like coming to Springfield. It's an easy drive. We love the community. I have friends and people that I know here. I don't have a lot down in Murfreesboro and Franklin, but that doesn't mean we're not going there. We are going there. But we're trying our best to make a difference here. And all we're doing is, we did the pilot program. Our guys were on the streets every day, rain, shine, 100-degree temperatures, didn't matter. We were out there. It's not an easy job. What we do is we pick up what people throw out, and we make sure it doesn't wind up in a landfill.
No, Mr. Sneed had his hand up next, and then I'll come to Mr. Hubbard. Mr. Sneed.
Oh, I was ready to make a motion on seeing where it went, just to see what you got. I make a motion that wait a minute, before I do that, withdraw. One question, I'll let you go. Go around and answer your questions. Let me put this together a little bit better.
Okay.
Go ahead.
We already have on the floor to discuss the possible action with the county. Do you want to change that?
I was going to make an amendment to it, but I'll let you finish. Let's go around and ask some more questions.
Mr. Hubbard.
Sitting here listening, all of the arguments are viable. Yes, it is a major problem. Yes, it's time for us to come into recognize that we're damaging our environment. This would be a once-a-week pickup. Is that the trend?
It's twice a month monthly.
Twice a month pickup, okay. But it's something that's really needed, and I can understand, I compliment you for wanting to focus on Springfield, because we throw away a lot of recyclable stuff, and me included. And that would definitely reduce it. Now, Alan, well, I have talked to Alan about how the public works with, you were saying something about, no, I'm gonna get off track, it's too long. He was giving us a scenario about something, but it's different from this. But I would definitely go along and stick with this.
Okay.
I think that we could adapt. We could adapt this. And it's not really hitting me too hard. $75 initially and then 14.
Well, and my question to Mr. Ellis is, we're already required to do recycling.
Yes, it's through the state, we're required, they have a minimum goal of 25% now. But it's through the, excuse me, I'm sorry. We do have a goal now of 25% that the state requires, but it's through the counties. They don't go through the cities.
Right.
And if you want me to elaborate, there's 3 counties that are together here. We're members with Robertson, Montgomery, and Stewart counties are all together in the solid waste, I forget the group, and that group has to meet the 25% goal. Now, what you don't realize that it's mostly commercial or other type of waste that makes up these totals. It's not residential. Clarksville and Montgomery County, by county, is very, very ahead of the game on this kind of things, and they've helped Robertson County and stay above the 25%. But that's the state law as it stands now on recycling.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Mr. Gregg?
Am I to understand that you bring out one container and you have metal, plastic, glass, cardboard, does it all go in this one container?
That is correct. It's called single stream recycling, no sorting required, paper, plastic, aluminum, metal cans, cardboard, and all of it is commingled. We then take it to a sorting facility and they sort that material mechanically.
What do we do when we overrun that container? We just throw it,
Well, typically, we have had some customers where they've had to put an extra bag or 2 next to the container, and we pick those up. So we prefer not to get a huge amount that's out there, obviously, for the neighborhood and the community, but we certainly do pick those up if they are next to the container.
Okay. Mr. Sneed?
I want to clarify something. Mr. Gregg, you asked if there was glass in that. There's no glass. Just cans and paper and plastic. Is that correct?
It is paper, plastic, cardboard, aluminum, and metal cans. We do not recycle the glass. The glass is very expensive and would certainly put the budget extraordinarily higher because of the cost to recycle the glass, because it's mixed in green, brown, and clear. If it was all clear glass, we'd be off to the races. If it was all brown glass, it was all green glass, but it's mixed.
Okay.
You mentioned that if we could get to a goal of 2,000, how would we contact or make known who would be in charge of, and how would it proceed to make known that the services is available at the prices that you're referencing the customers to pay, which is $8? How would you let these people know that?
Well, I probably want to let Mr. Ellis also address that as well, because it's a partnership, it's a cooperative. So we would certainly sit down and work out a strategy to communicate with all of the residents within the city limits. Whatever resources are available, you mentioned that the paper was no longer here, but I'm sure there is a paper here. And there are other methods of communicating that information, direct mail. I believe there's also the utilities bill, and we had talked about that in the meeting potentially. So there are a number of different methods for communicating it. And I would mention too, during the pilot program, it was quoted in one of our meetings that there was very little information provided by the city to those residents, and that was another reason why the actual diversion rate was low. There was virtually no communication other than the cart that was put out there for the customers.
Follow-up question. You said that there was no plan in place to notify people about the program, that hasn't been resolved as how to do that.
No, I said there was no communication, not that there was no plan, there was no
But
communication.
I'm saying, if we were to approve what's being proposed tonight, that there would be up to 2,000 additional units placed at the reduced cost that you've proposed. My question to you was, how would you let the people know about this? Because you said there was no campaign for your services in the 4.5 years, so what would be different? I'm saying, what would be different if we started subsidizing? How would you let these people know?
Well, we actually do some marketing now, not so much here, but I will tell you that we're not new at running a company, and we certainly will work with the city to put together an actual full-blown campaign. We want it to work for you. So we're going to make sure, based on our pilot program, we realize that there's no plan and no information coming from the city. We have to step it up, and that's obviously what we'll...
Well, I'm a little perplexed that there's not a clear answer to that. Having looked through 100 emails, conversations, numerous meetings over the last year, that answer is not forthcoming, that we wouldn't already know that prior to a commitment from the county and the city is how we're going to market this. That would be like a pretty high priority to know and have an answer for that. So I have no further questions, Mayor.
Can I just reiterate something there?
Let Mr. Head speak, and I'll come to you next.
Thank you, ma'am.
No further questions.
Okay, Mr. Hubbard.
He just said that he would step up communicating with Alan on a private public. Okay, so, yes, maybe he didn't market it like he marketed, but he understands he has to step it up. We do have a paper, two papers really, that we could put it in. But if you could really get with Alan, understand me, strategize, and use that word, okay? You have to step it up, okay? Maybe flyers or something, okay? Because really and truly, this is really needed. This is really needed, okay?
Mr. Harris?
To Ms. Hope, do we have that capability of including that information in our electric bills that are mailed out?
We have lines, I'm not
There is a
sure
fee
how
that we have
much
to pay.
space we have.
We have to pay a
Well,
fee
you
for
could
that?
add it to the bill, there's a small change fee to do that, but if you wanted to include an insert, there's a fee per insert that we have to pay.
Probably cheaper than doing a separate mailing though.
Probably
Yes.
so, yes.
But with the newspapers and the radio and the webpage and our public access TV, I mean, and the community clubs, I mean, our civic clubs, I think the word could get out. Because it is a county and city and Green Village partnership.
If this is passed, we will all sit down at the table and figure out how we're going to market this.
Ready for the vote?
Okay.
I'm ready to make an amendment, move to amend.
He called for the question, he called for an amendment.
The question first.
You can't shut down the debate by calling question, you have to vote on that.
Yeah, I agree. And earlier, Mr. Sneed had said he wanted to make an amendment.
Okay, Mr. Snead?
Did he say you want to make an amendment, or he just?
He did say.
He did.
Okay.
He said he wanted the wordsmith to make sure it read it right.
All right, Mr. Snead, I'm ready to write.
I move that we amend the motion to purchase the carts required.
Purchase carts required.
That would be the result of a campaign to solicit participation in this new program, and hold on.
Okay.
Allow the participants to pay for their services through an increase in their sanitation bill, but with a new line item.
So we're increasing
Period, that's it.
Okay?
Us purchase the cars.
The total amount of, to
Okay,
2000.
okay, hold on.
Just
Let him,
just stay with me, just stay with me, there's a reason behind it, just stay with me.
I'm trying to write this. Okay, your motion is to purchase, the city of Springfield to purchase the carts, to have a campaign for this new program, and to allow customers to pay for the service with an increase through their bill, the total cost. We're not partnering
That's
with the
right.
county?
I'm gonna take that monkey off their back.
Okay,
The vote over there was 18-3. I don't think the citizens in the entire well, I'm discussing it. You're just gonna have to give me a motion, then we'll discuss it.
okay. I'm gonna try to make sure everyone understands this before we get a second. Motion to purchase, the city of Springfield to purchase the carts. The city of Springfield to have a campaign to participate in the new program. The total amount of the service, the total amount of the service is $18?
$14.
$14. And that would be passed on to anyone that wanted to participate in this program
Right.
in a line item on their bill.
Correct.
Okay. Do I hear a second to the motion? Do you understand it?
I'll second it so we can discuss it.
Okay?
Okay.
There's a first and a second.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg, for not being scared to make a move around here that wasn't put in front of you.
Okay?
May I just,
Yes, Mr. Haddard.
Ms. Sneed, okay, how many cards? And at what price, sir?
We can buy the carts in bulk at a discounted rate. We've already proved that from the cart price that they offered us versus the 300 that we purchased. It would be cheaper for us to buy them.
How many? How many
Okay,
is from
now listen to me. You're all about wanting to spend money for things. So I don't know why you're raising the issue with it.
I asked you how many cards. That's all I want. How many cards?
We do not know that figure yet. We will have to see from the unknown
Okay,
campaign.
so your motion, sir, is that we purchase as many as the demand, to meet the demand.
We can purchase groups, and then as demand grows, they'd be on a waiting list until we get a quantity, make another purchase in a group. The reason why I want the city to own the carts is I don't want the contractor to hold us hostage during rate increases to say, well, you're going to have to agree to these rate increases or we're going to pull all our carts out. And then you're going to have all these people mad and it's all going to be you're going to have a few hundred people that will be upset. If we own the carts, we can negotiate better for a cheaper rate from the contractors, them or someone else.
Okay? Any other discussion?
So, but not partnership with the county, is that what he's saying?
No, he's saying, this is just for the city of Springfield. This leaves the county out of this motion.
That's what I'm saying, so that's gonna cost the customers more, is that not correct?
Yes.
Can I just say that if you use the same 2,000, we already have 300, you buy 1,700 carts at approximately $60, you're looking at $102,000.
Right. And it's gonna increase the rate for the customers also.
And the $60 is the discounted rate.
Right.
Yes.
These carts will not be able to be used anything except for recycling. We use a different color.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis, for pointing that out. Mr. Gregg?
Still listening.
Okay. Mr. Head, do you have questions? Mr. Sneed?
I think if we get the county, I just don't think, there's groups that are playing us off each other, and I think if we could just do it all in-house and not the county would be the benefactor of any volume savings, as you said, which is true. There is a volume savings, but if that was pointed out today as what we really need to be looking at, I don't know why it wasn't looked at to give these stats that we're looking at today, which are in tons. So get the county out of it, own the carts, not be subject to manipulations. Being held over the barrel for a rate increase later. We have a bigger say in the game.
Mr.
And
Harris?
do it at a bulk rate.
So if I understand you correctly, you're proposing that we buy the carts, and that's the only expense the city has,
Correct.
not the $3 monthly fee.
If people want it, if they pay for it, they'll use it. It's already been proven, it's been discussed, it's been advocated. If they pay for it, they'll use it.
So if we had 2,000 customers roughly with what Ms. Holdis just said,
We're not going to get
we
to
would, well, I'm using a scenario. If we had 2,000 customers, she stated that it would cost us $102,000 to purchase these carts and not $72,000 a year to pay out if we had that many.
Well, if we're willing to pay that much per year, the cost of the carts is negligible in the scheme of the overall program, because these carts are, they're
I'm
not
not
right.
making a statement, I'm asking a question.
Okay, say again.
My question to you was that she made the comment, if we bought the carts, it would be at a cost of approximately $102,000
For 1,700.
for 1,700, if it were that many. Otherwise, for 1,700,
It's $60 a cart.
right. So we're going to pay out, you're proposing to do that instead of paying a $3 monthly fee. I realize if we only have 400 people sign up, we're going to buy.
Well, we
100
got
carts.
to do a campaign to see how many people want it. And then we'll make a determination on how many carts to buy at that point.
Okay, so the motion is on the, are we ready to vote, gentlemen? Mr. Ellis?
You're voting on the amendment.
The motion to amend. And the motion to amend is to the city of Springfield to purchase the carts, do a campaign, pass the cost on to the customer through the bill in a line item. Mr. Ellis?
Only comment I have to make on it is if we explained before, the benefactor of recycling at the present is the landfill, or the county. Because every ton that you take out, the county doesn't have to transport it out of here. So they're making money. It doesn't affect the city at all. So it would be, I would hate to see the county not participating, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
You follow what I'm saying?
I understand.
Ready to call the roll?
I don't have a good solution. It's just something down the middle here.
It's not a good solution.
But who's to say on that that their fee is going to be at that price though? Because it's a whole new negotiation ballgame now. And your normal fee is $20 a month.
Yeah, I mean, we would be more than happy to have this as a 36-month program with a set fee that doesn't go up, but it was moved down to 1 year. So we're actually going to make a $100,000 investment into a truck just for this market, okay? So we're going to finance that over 5 years. You're only making a commitment for 1 year. We're 4 years on the hook. We're not looking to go up on the rates. I mean, at the end of the day, it was established that the customers would pay a deposit for the roll carts. Now it's somehow transitioned that the customers are going to pay or not pay for the city. I mean, the customers were actually paying for those roll carts as a deposit, and they were going to receive those roll carts. Now you're taking on that responsibility as the city.
Okay. Any final discussion before we call the roll on the amendment?
Yes, I'm not afraid of how many carts we're going to have to buy.
Okay. Call the roll, please.
Snyder?
No.
Harris?
No.
Gregg?
Yes.
Sneed?
Yes.
Trotter?
No.
Head?
Yes.
Hubbard?
This is a tough one. That's a yes.
Pass 4-3.
Okay.
We have to vote on the amended motion.
Okay, now we have to go back and vote on the amended motion. Okay.
What good's it going to do to vote on this if we've already set what the standard's going to be, is my question to the legal. What good does it do us? If we go back and vote yes on that, then where do we stand then? I mean, should we be voting on? He's just put an amendment to it. So we're going back and voting on the whole thing
Yeah.
as a whole per his amendment.
If you want the city of Springfield to purchase the carts, we're going back and voting on that as amended.
Yes.
and to
Right.
do the campaign and to pass it on to the customers.
Right,
Okay?
How much is being passed on to the customers?
$14.
The whole thing?
That's right, taking it off the county, and people who want this service, they'll pay it.
It's only being passed to the ones that want it, though.
Right, it's being reduced from 20 to 14, but we're trying to do it on a larger scale.
But that don't mean we're gonna just go out there and buy 1,700 cards.
No, we need to see how many people want to do this.
Exactly, okay.
That was the goal if we'd approved it the
That's why
other
we're
way.
doing it.
Okay?
That was the goal if we did it the other way too.
Understand, when you vote yes, you're voting on it as being amended. I'm correct? Want everybody to understand.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? Roll call?
Harris,
No.
Snyder,
No.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Trotter,
No.
Sneed,
Yes.
Gregg,
Yes.
Head,
Yes.
has 4-3.
Thank you, Mr. Jason. Hope you're successful in your campaign.
I hope we are too. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
3.12, discuss and possible take action to approve the easement for the Logan Todd Regional Water Commission and the old Greenbrier Pike Sewer. The easements are, of course, you saw them in your packet on your computer.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
Harris,
Yes.
Trotter, Snyder,
Aye.
Head,
Yes.
Gregg,
Aye.
has 7-0.
3.13, our monthly report on the progress of the AOC Sewer Collection Systems contract. Mr. Terry Beers is coming to the mic. Welcome as the interim.
Thank you. There's really not a lot to add right now. We're still waiting on some property acquisitions and easements, and when we get those, we've got about 3 projects that are really kind of dire to get started, but that's really where we're standing right now, that if we get those in hand, we can start those. So,
Do we expect to have those easements in the next 30 days, or?
let Ms. Holt.
Well, we have about 9 or 10 that are under condemnation, or being filed for condemnation. And then we have just a couple on top of that, that there's still some negotiations. So we're very, very close.
Okay, once you file for condemnation,
Oh,
you get immediate possession, is it?
right.
Correct.
And the tank sites, 2 big parts of it
Yes.
are under condemnation. For a minute there, I was thinking Logan Todd, I've got too many
No.
things on my mind, but yeah. But no, we do have, well, we don't have that many left on the
No,
2C or
not
the
total.
5.
I mean, any
No,
of
we
them,
really
yeah.
don't.
But once we get those, Mr. Head, we can start with the other contracts and get those projects started. Then on our limited time we have on the AOC, so we can get moving on that, complete that.
Good question. Any more questions? Mr. Harris?
As we met last Thursday night, it was talked about that we were 5 months into this AOC.
Correct.
Already on a 24-month new one, is that
Nice.
correct?
Deadline
So
is August of 2019, the new deadline.
Ms. Holt stated it takes 18 months to build these 2 tanks.
It's 18 to 20, correct.
So how likely are we going to meet this deadline? Because I don't think they're going to look very
Well,
favorable.
more than likely, we're not going to, Mr. Harris, but what we'll do is a file for a 3rd year. If we show cause that we've made strides in order to finish this, that we can get a 3rd year on that particular
Feel
one.
confident in that?
Yes, they actually said that.
That's part of our,
And
yes.
when they sent us notification that we were granted the extension for 2 years, they did say that if we were making substantial progress, that they would grant us that 3rd year. And I think by then, we will have made substantial progress.
Yeah, we are approaching that time, though. We need to get those in hand, correct.
We need to get on the ball. Okay?
There's a hefty fine if we don't.
Yes.
We don't want to deal with that.
Possibility exists.
Absolutely. Our consent doc.
Move to accept it all.
Thank you. Any questions before we call the roll? Call the roll, please.
Trotter.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head,
Yes.
Snyder. Sneed. Gregg. Harris.
Yes.
Passed 7-0.
I'll call on our city manager, Ms. Gina Holt, for our report, and we will be home in time to see the president.
Okay.
You got 10 minutes.
I'll talk fast. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank all the city employees who worked so long in extreme weather, especially the Public Works Department, for keeping our streets relatively good shape compared to some of our state highways 2 weeks ago. So all of our employees.
Thank you.
But all of our departments did a great job. But I just wanted to single out the Public Works Department. And the last thing, I'd like to schedule a workshop in the weeks ahead of this board to discuss our water system and the challenges that we have with growth in the county. The city and the county. As you know, there have been a number of large subdivisions that have been proposed in Coopertown and in Greenbrier, and they're just sort of popping up in different places, and it costs us millions of dollars to do upgrades. We can't go everywhere something pops up. We have to make decisions about our system. We have to make sure we have capacity and we have the pressure. So I would like you all to pick some dates, maybe the latter part of February or in March, and I would like to get a representative, a utility consultant from MTAS, to work with us to study this so that we can get a return on our investment, first and foremost for the city of Springfield, obviously, but we just need to look at it. They're all our customers, the whole county's our customer, but we need to take some serious looks at where we want to go. So can you give me some dates?
Do we have any say-so, Gina, in those? Like, for instance, we provide water to Greenbrier, is that correct?
We do, but so
If
does...
somebody wants to build a subdivision there,
If we don't have the...
we have to participate, or?
Well, we don't provide all of Greenbrier's. I think White House provides some, but we have areas where we don't have the capacity. We don't have the pressure, and so we're having to tell people no. And right now, Coopertown, they're really anxious, and we can't really go ahead and say, yes, we can provide you the water. So that's why we have to do something here pretty soon. So it would be great if you could give me some dates, and then I'll work with MTAS and see if we can't come up with a workshop.
22nd of this month, of
March.
February.
Oh,
22nd, a Thursday, the 22nd?
okay, so we meet on the 20th that week.
22nd's good for me.
It's fine with me.
Oh, that's Logan Todd, isn't it?
Oh.
We can't be
It
here.
is.
We
It
can't
is
miss
Logan
Logan Todd again. That takes 3 of us.
Well, unless we do it at,
In the evening,
say, 6:30.
yeah, in the
What
evening.
time is Logan Todd over?
Well, it probably needs to be 7.
Okay.
It would have to be 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, we could do 7 o'clock.
Fine, yeah.
7 o'clock, work on the 22nd? Okay, pick one more just in case.
How about the, gentlemen, how about the 27th?
The what?
February 27th,
Tuesday?
the following week after we meet.
What day is that?
The 27th.
Tuesday, the 27th of February. And I'll try to find out in the next day or two if we can get the date pinned down, either one of those.
I'm good on 27th.
Still doing a 7 o'clock both days.
No.
No, on the 27th, we could do, what, 5?
Are y'all good with the 27th?
If everybody's good with the 27th, can we just do it then?
Let's just-
I would prefer
If they're
that.
going to Logan Todd, they're not going to come to another 7 o'clock meeting.
No, thank you.
Okay,
If the 27th works for everybody.
That's a Tuesday.
I'm good.
Yeah,
Tell them go.
5 o'clock.
So you're gonna cancel the 22nd?
Yeah.
So the
Yes.
27th,
27th, and we will do it here.
27th.
what time?
Bruce, are you good with that at 5 o'clock?
5 o'clock.
Everybody good, 5 o'clock?
The subway's waiting, please, ma'am.
That's gonna be
The sky, not the star.
a requirement. Ms. Holt, do anything else?
No, that is it.
I said,
Meeting adjourned.
I said, please, Ms. Scott.
Thank you. All of a sudden, my phone got dropped.
Thank you, Tim. I can't do 2 meetings that day.